Hi, it's Jan Beta, and as you probably know, I'm a huge fan of the Commodore 64 computer and derivatives like the Commodore 128. And over time I accumulated quite a few little add-ons and modern, refined ways to output video from the Commodore 64. I made a video about making my own S-video cable that I shared on YouTube, and I also made a video about the new or still upcoming component mod. And I also made a video about the clear video, which is just the refined version of the classical Luma fix that gets rid of the stripes, the vertical jail bars that are introduced by the VIC-II graphics chip in the Commodore 64. Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and introduce some ways of connecting the Commodore 64 to monitors of all kinds. And I'm going to start with a little PCB that Edu Arana sent me quite a while back. Actually shot the footage you're about to see when I shot the footage for the Clear Video 64 video. Clear Video 64 video. Yeah, that's why it's probably going to look a tiny bit different, but that's the RF out board that he sent me. I'm just going to put in the footage now. Before we get into looking at things, let me quickly point out that this video was kindly sponsored by PCBWay, who are an awesome manufacturer of prototype PCBs and also larger scale projects of all kinds. So if you want to have your PCB design manufactured, I strongly recommend checking them out. They have really good service and really reasonable prices. I got another C64 video output related delivery from Edu Arana, who runs the site AranaNet that you probably are aware of if you are a retro computer tinkerer. He sells a lot of nice accessories for computers basically. And he sent me this. So here's what this is. It's a replacement for the Commodore 64 RF modulator that gives me a composite RCA jack and like a little funnel plug audio out, which is pretty handy to quickly connect this to modern stuff. Like you could connect a little speaker or something. This is an extension board that extends this for main boards that have the long RF modulator version. And you can use it like this for the short modulator version. And I actually thought about just putting it into this case and leave the clear 64 video in there as well. But that's not going to work because this is interfering with the outputs, and it has quite some circuitry on it, some capacitors and stuff, and I don't want to risk messing up the signal from the clear video thing, so I'm just using another C64. I have a couple actually. So you probably know this one. It's kind of my test C64. Not recapped, no nothing. It's just a stock C64. It works fine. I don't think it has a SID chip at the moment, but that can be replaced with something, I guess. So for some reason I'm having a really hard time to capture the video out from this one, but yeah, it just looks like a normal old Bradbin C64 with an old VIC-II chip, some color bleed and stuff like that. Not that many vertical stripes, jail bars. So yeah, this is the S-video or Luma Chroma output. It actually doesn't look bad. Let's see what it does if I remove the RF modulator and replace it with Edu's little PCB. There we go. And as you can see, this has the long version, so we are going to need the little extension. That should work like this. Yay! So first, same procedure, just using my desoldering station to remove the RF modulator altogether. So, wonder if I lifted any pads. No, no pads lifted. Yay! So here's the description on arananet.net actually. RF out, a RF modulator replacement board for C64. This board is a complete replacement for the RF modulator of the C64. It allows to have composite output and audio. It's also designed to work with long and short RF module footprint, yes. Extension board for motherboard with big one. Installation. You will need to measure the voltage between the pin 1 and pin 8 on the C64 board. If you got 5 DC on pin 1, then you can solder all the 4 pins. The right pin row, if you got 12 volt or 9 volt, you need to remove the pin 1 from the pin row, leave only the 3, and then connect 5 volt source to the connector on top of those 4 pins. Check the images. Okay, you will need to measure between pin 1 and pin 8 on the C64 board. Let's do that. Obviously we are going to connect power for this. And there's our pin 1 and there's our pin 8. So we just bring out our multimeter, put it into volts DC, turn on the Commodore 64 and measure between pin 1 and pin 8. And we have 12 volts DC. Can't see it, of course, because I have my hand in front of it. So there we are, 12 volts DC. Okay, I need to remove pin 1 from the pin row. That means this pin here. To remove that altogether, just gonna bite it. So, there we go. Removed it. Just clipped the plastic part. Edo left this unsoldered, so I can clip this easily. I'm going to solder this in myself. So we need to connect the 5 volt source to the connector on top of those 4 pins. So there's our little extra power connector, +5 and ground. Shouldn't be a problem. And it also has the if you got 5 volts, then you can connect it. If you got 9 volts, then you need to use the extra power for 5 volts. Yeah. So first of all, of course, no matter what, we have to solder the extension board on. So this fits in this larger breadbin case. In order to line this up with the case, I've actually put the board into the case. Now I should be able to put this in here. And it should, I think it should just fit if we push it all the way down. And then it takes over the openings from the RF modulator, which actually has an RCA jack that's just for the RF signal, for the antenna signal, TV antenna signal. And it has the little switch to switch the TV channel. And that is taken over by this. As for the 5 volts and the ground, I'm just going to switch on the C64. There should be 5 volts here, which there are. And a ground here probably. Let's see if that is really ground. Yep, that's ground. Okay, so we can just connect the 2 little spots here, there. There. This should do the trick, I guess. So I actually made some refinements after putting this RF out board by Edu in. Put a bit of Kapton tape below the contacts in the middle so that it doesn't short out with the board. Just kind of a protective measure. Otherwise, I had to reposition it slightly because the connectors didn't quite line up. But now it's just fitting in perfectly. And let me show you the output quality. So it's pretty difficult to see, but the picture quality is way crisper than with the old RF modulator in place. And that's actually normal because the older RF modulators introduce quite a bit of fuzziness into the picture. If you haven't done so, I recommend checking out Adrian Black's video on the issues. He did a reverse engineering effort of the classic RF modulators and also came up with a fix where you can just bypass the RF modulator with very simple modifications and you get a way better picture output. You just can't use the RF modulator anymore. So this mod by Edu makes it easy to just connect an RCA cable to just hook up any modern day or slightly modern day monitor that has an RCA composite input to the C64, which is a very nice feature indeed. And the old output still works for everything you need to connect there, so that is just fed through there and you get the same output, just in a slightly higher quality, especially for the older board revisions where the RF modulator was kind of crap. You get a way crisper picture by just removing it and replacing it with a replacement circuit like this. There's a couple of different replacement circuits on the market, and there's also Adrian's method that I mentioned where you just cut some components and have a bypassed RF modulator basically. So this is a nifty thing. I'm going to link everything below in the description where to buy this and also Adrian's video in case you just want to mod your RF modulator. Kind of a different approach that utilizes the original AV out of the Commodore 64 is this contraption here, which was designed by Sven Petersen actually. And it is a little PCB in here. The enclosure actually comes from Kultidomachi on Twitter. I have no idea how your name is pronounced. I'm sorry if I just butchered it. I'm going to link his Twitter account in the description and also the GitHub where Sven put this on for everybody to make your own. You could use PCBWay to have these PCBs produced, of course. The Gerber files and everything you need for producing them are available on the GitHub. Yeah, this basically is just a little breakout. This takes the original kind of weird DIN socket, this plugs into the back, and then you have the nowadays more common connections with the composite. It also has stereo audio capabilities in case you have a second SID with one of the SID doubler PCBs or anything like that, or a modern replacement SID that has stereo output. You can jumper this to have stereo. This is now mono, so both RCA jacks are going to have the same signal. And you also have the chroma. There's a little, if you remember my video where I made an S-video cable, I just soldered on a little resistor in the chroma line. And this actually has this resistor built in, and you can turn it off and turn it on by just unplugging this little jumper here. So that's really nice. Really handy for quickly connecting a C64 with your regular cables without having the need to produce your own cable or buy an expensive aftermarket cable. It also has the audio in, which is, I've never seen it used really, but the SID actually has an audio in and you can apply the filters to the audio in that you feed in there. So yeah, very nice device. Let's quickly plug this in and test it. So yeah, this just goes into the AV jack and you can just plug in. I'm just plugging in the composite out because I have it already set up here. The quality should be the same as with the other RCA jack, basically. Yeah, there we go. It's basically the same signal, just taken from another point on the main board here. So yeah, this is very handy if you don't want to mess around with the special cables the Commodore 64 needs. I'm also going to link everything you need to get one and maybe buy one. I'm not sure if they are on sale at the moment, but I'm going to find out and put a link in the description if you want one or if you want to make one of those. So, and here's another one that just came in from Edu, and that's for a whole different computer, as you can probably make out in the background here. It's the Commodore 128, which has, if you push down this button here, it has an 80 columns mode actually, and that is achieved by using a different graphics chip, kind of like from the business line of Commodore. It was developed for business computers really originally, so it is kind of a workaround, and it's not really suitable to be used with the composite output and S-video or Luma Chroma output that this normally has in 40 columns mode. So they used a different connector, which is this RGBI connector. And RGBI is a format that you basically can only use with old monitors that support the input. It's basically CGA, and you can only use that on specialized monitors unless you have some extra hardware. And that's what this is. This is basically an adapter that comes with Edu's nice keyring. Arananet is his website. It's going to be linked in below. And this plugs into the Commodore 128, and the output is VGA. So this will probably only work with multi-sync VGA monitors, because it's just a very simple conversion circuit on there. But it's still going to be an RGB signal that VGA upscalers can handle. And I'm just going to try it briefly on my VGA monitor and then go with my OSSC upscaler that should be able to handle the signal. Let's see. Ha. It doesn't plug in because we have to remove the screws here. So it actually fits. Could of course also use a cable. Please hold in the whole bracket here. So let me just... So, okay. Got this in. Okay, so the Commodore is set to 80 columns mode now. Should be... and it should be connected to this regular monitor. Let's see what it does. If it can handle this signal actually. Probably not. Wrong video mode. Yeah, it can't handle the video mode, so I'm just going to have to use an upscaler. Surprise! So now I have my OSSC upscaler connected that should be able to handle the signal actually. Let's switch the Commodore on. So here's my OSSC, and it's got a lock on the VGA signal that is 15 kilohertz signal that most modern monitors won't be able to interpret correctly, so you need an older multi-sync monitor. Maybe some newer ones can do that too, but most can't, as you've seen. Mine can't. I'm going to link a website below in the description where you can see some known working monitors that you are going to be able to find for rather cheap money on eBay usually. Yeah, they have to support 15 kilohertz sync. We actually got a picture. Let me show you. Yeah, so here's what we get. Actually works. Should have color. Yay! We have color. We have color too. And my enter is still broken. So I'm using the numpad enter. there's going to be another video about fixing the keyboard in this Commodore 128. Get a bit of flicker, but I guess that's okay. I think that might be my wonky cabling that's going on here. So yeah, this seems to work just fine. So this is actually really handy to have, because I didn't have the possibility to connect this to a modern day display in color actually. I have a couple of monitors that can do RGBI, so I could have connected this directly to an old school monitor, but this of course is a lot more handy if you, especially if you want to do like screen recordings from the Commodore 128 and stuff like that. That's really cool actually. Nice. So the only issue I have with this is that you would have to use another kind of connector here to directly connect it. Because this one, if you remove these screws, which you have to do in order to plug it into the Commodore 128, these are usually screw holding down the shielding here as well. So you would have to add some smaller screws here so it would still fit the Commodore 128. Or you would have to use an actual 9-pin DB9 cable. So that would be another way of doing it. But I think it's quite a nice thing actually to plug it directly into the Commodore 128. Yeah, that's the only criticism about this I have really. Otherwise it seems to work really fine. Yeah, let me end this with a huge thank you to everybody who supported me over the past couple of weeks. Actually lost my job due to Corona, so now I'm going full-time YouTube at the moment. Yeah, I hope to be able to make a living off this, so yeah. Check out my new library channel that I have linked in the description as well. Library is like a new platform for videos. It's like LBRY. A new platform for videos that has kind of a decentralized approach, which I find pretty interesting. And yeah, it's not quite all running smoothly because it's a new platform, but you are going to find all the YouTube videos on there as well from now on. And my whole back catalog is synced there as well. So if you want to watch my stuff on another platform, check out Library. And also I introduced channel memberships, which are basically going to be the same as my Patreon stuff. So if you join a tier on the membership page, which you can by clicking a little button below this video, if you're not into Patreon and still want to give me some support, you can check that out and become a channel member. And there's going to be the same tiers and perks as for the Patreon supporters. So thank you all very much. Hope to see you again on this channel sometime. I'm Jan Beta. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.